Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game SO. Taking our long-running series, the Unported Playlist, where I take some of my favorite unported arcade games of all time. And today we're going to be talking about one of my personal favorites that I mentioned on the channel before. This is Beastbuster Second Nightmare, and I will say right off the top, as far as my favorite games of all time are concerned, this is my #1 favorite arcade game to play basically every single year. I still remember the first time I saw this thing in Vail, Colorado at a hotel for the US Free Skiing Open. I absolutely fell in love with the game and knew one day when I had enough space I would have to start buying arcade hardware and pick up a board for this one. And while I have owned a board for maybe like 7 or 8 years now, the fact that this emulates perfectly in MAME today with audio is absolutely incredible to me, and that means everyone can enjoy this game. You don't have to be like me and have massive original hardware that's hard to wire up to do so. And when I say Beastbuster Second Nightmare, it's just absolutely a special game and a straight up retro gaming hidden gem. I 100% mean it. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, down below hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. And I am basically running the first sequence of this actual video with no edits whatsoever, just so you can understand the overall flow of this game. Because I think what it does better than basically any other horror light gun game or even light gun game out there is have absolutely incredible flow through the gameplay. It is action packed and intense. It lets off the gas just a little bit before it starts throwing another couple zombies at you, just basically making this game balls to the walls from start to finish. And I absolutely love that SNK and ADK, the actual developers of the game, just went straight up 10 out of 10 when it comes to the gore and violence. You're going to be blowing zombies in half, you're going to be seeing spines hanging out, heads are going to pop with spurts of blood just going everywhere. It has everything I want out of a horror light gun game, and I think this one, honestly, as far as the body horror goes, is harder than any other game out there. Even something like the original House of the Dead, where you're blowing holes in zombies to see what they're made of inside. Beastbuster Second Nightmare just absolutely mops the floor with a bucket of blood when it comes to that overall gore. And I think that really does the game a ton of favors. And even though the Hyper Neo Geo 64 wasn't the prettiest piece of hardware in 1998 when this thing came out, definitely not standing toe-to-toe with Model 3, the overall graphical stylings here and the straight-up pixelated zombies just look really kind of grindhouse horror aesthetic in all of the best ways possible. But this is obviously a light gun game, or more specifically an analog game, because it isn't using a light sensor for the monitor, so the shooting mechanics have to be the thing that it lives or dies on. It wouldn't matter how pretty and gory and fun this game is, if the action wasn't there and it wasn't hitting, it really wouldn't be that fun of a time. But obviously if I say this is my favorite arcade game of all time, it must be pretty decent, and I think that ADK here did an absolutely incredible job when it comes to the light gun mechanic. The game is fair but very challenging. It has a ton of fun stuff to shoot at as far as zombies and monsters are concerned, and basically everything in the environment can be destructible, and you can find a lot of power-ups alongside the way, because you definitely want to get as many bombs as you can, both the stage 1, 2, and 3 variety, because those are going to be the difference between playing this game well and absolutely getting decimated by some of the monsters. And as we come in here into one of the boss battles again, I just love how cinematic this game truly is. It hits every single time I play it. I always have fun, and even to this day that I played it a couple dozen times, every playthrough just makes me happy. But this boss right here, absolutely, again, straight up horror 10 out of 10. He's going to come at you waving that chainsaw arm, kind of like Ash in Evil Dead, and it just absolutely works. And with his spine exposed and him doubling himself up, it just basically makes you wonder how he's still moving forward when you're basically chewing the meat off of his torso. And you will see that you're going to get danger icons in some of the boss fights, basically showing you where you need to hit if you're actually going to knock them back and stagger them, because all the bosses in this game have a ton of health, and every single boss battle is an epic kind of thing in its own right. And that's why I really love Beastbuster Second Nightmare. The sensation of just straight up action is there for everyone to enjoy. But a soundtrack sample one time, 45 seconds, but I'll be right back with a lot more Beastbusters. So the game has a really fun soundtrack and obviously some really good sound effects. So like any light gun game out there, even stuff by Seiko like Gunblade New York and Ellie Machine Gun, sometimes the gun sound effects can be a little bit louder than you would prefer them to versus the music, because the music in this game is quite effective. But I love as we kill this boss here, somehow he just completely explodes, leaving all of his entrails just kind of spraying around the screen. And as we move to the next stage, what I really love about Beastbuster's Second Nightmare is every single level feels like its own little vignette through the world. Every environment's going to change. You're always going to see something different, new, and unique. And because this is a sequel to another SNK game, you can see a little through line in the enemies. But honestly, I just love how this game looks. All of these pixelated graphics, all of these monsters just rushing towards you with their kind of chunky polygons. It has a very particular vibe, and I'm absolutely there for it. And even though on paper and even in visual, something like the House of the Dead on the Sega Model 2 would outperform Beastbuster's Second Nightmare, I will say, and trust me, I absolutely love the House of the Dead and consider it one of the best games ever made. I think the vibes here in Beastbuster's Second Nightmare are just better. The hospital that we're going through is very similar to Curian Mansion, except a hospital environment, so you get more of that kind of medical gore going on, because horror in hospitals in film and entertainment definitely is a thing that is out there. And I love some of the enemies in this game. These two zombies, basically hived up with bees, only appear in this one hallway and never appear again. The developers and artists at 80K just absolutely wanted to fill this game with as many unique little things to see and do as possible, and I really love that some environments show you zombies and monsters for like 30 seconds and never to be seen again. I even love that you get the blood splatter on the walls here showing you where you've killed the zombies. And as we go into this operating room, you see a zombie doctor and a zombie nurse eating a zombie patient. You use a bomb, everything blows up around you, and you just absolutely have one of my favorite scenes in the entire game. And honestly, we all have those games out there, the ones that feel special to us, the ones where every single time we play them we have a smile on our face and it feels like we're playing it for the first time again, even if it's decades later. And I played this game at a point in time in my life where I really didn't have a lot of time to actually play video games, because I traveled basically 300 days out of the year working and skiing. So when I was at the US Free Skiing Open and I saw an arcade cabinet in the game room called Beastbuster's Second Nightmare, I figured to myself, hey, it looks a little bit like the House of the Dead. I should throw some quarters in and see if I enjoy it. And I absolutely fell in love with this game. And I think I said it in a previous video, but that game room was right next to a pool. There was an indoor and outdoor heated pool, and it smelled very strongly of chlorine. So when I smell a pool to this day, the first memory that comes to my mind is Beastbuster's Second Nightmare. That is how intrinsically linked it is in my head to the smell of chlorine, and to just how much fun I had when I played this thing. And again, I play this at least once a year in October around Halloween, and it's something that I've always told people, if you have the chance to check it out, you absolutely should do so. But now with the most recent improvements in MAME, both on the emulation side and especially on the sound emulation side, you can actually sit down and enjoy this game from start to finish, just like I can, having both the motherboard as well as the game cart. And if you try to pick those two up today, if you can even find one, you're talking multiple thousands of dollars, and I love the emulation's free. But it's soundtrack sample 2 time, and I'll be right back with more. I do love the music in Beastbuster's Second Nightmare, but be aware if you are playing this game and you notice some levels actually don't have any music, that is not an emulation bug. My original hardware does the same thing. I'm not sure if 80K rushed this game music-wise and just didn't have tracks for those areas, or in some instances like the sewer, they just decided to let the sewer sound effects kind of play out in the background. But not every single area in Beastbuster's Second Nightmare is going to be accompanied by a soundtrack. And interestingly enough, if you do buy the soundtrack for this game or listen to it online, and I do have it on my shelf, there are a couple tracks that are unused in the game that were put on this CD. So honestly, I feel like maybe one of those was for the sewer and they just never actually got it working in there. And if you can't tell already, this is a 2-player game, but technically it's also a 3-player game. There is information in the actual test menu to get a third controller working, which I've never actually done in MAME, but I did play around with in real hardware and it will work. and they definitely ship the cabinet with only 2 controllers, but if you want to play a 3-player game of this thing, at least on real hardware, it can work, but then you'd have to find a motherboard, a game, wire up 3 custom controllers, and find 2 friends to do it at the same time, so that maybe never actually happened outside of SNK's offices. But as we go through this little area here, with what I can only describe as nematodes from Doug, I just love as you shoot them, they absolutely explode onto the walls in a rain of blood. It is just so much fun to watch this game in action, and again, I totally understand that it is going to be a deep cut, but for me personally, this is my absolute favorite arcade game. It just does everything right, and there really isn't anything about it that I would change whatsoever. I love the absolutely gritty, violent aesthetic. I love all of the zombies and monsters, and even though it wasn't anywhere near as impressive as Sega Model 3 or Namco System 23 graphically, they did a lot with what they had on the hardware, and absolutely did an incredible job in world building when they made the world of Beastbuster Second Nightmare. My only regret about this game is at the end, it says that there is more game to come, basically setting up for a 3rd game in the Beastbusters franchise, and we never actually got that in arcades, and I'm assuming we're never going to see it ever again. And I've always wondered what the plan was for a 3rd Beastbusters game in arcades, but of course it's one of those things I'm just going to have to imagine it, because I highly doubt SNK is ever going to make another game in this franchise again, because at this point in time they really are just a fighting game developer, and that's totally fine. That is what they do best, but honestly, Beastbuster Second Nightmare, my favorite game ever made by SNK, even though it was made by ADK, and they helped with the development of the Hyper Neo Geo hardware as well, and they definitely helped in actually making the AES and MVS. That relationship between ADK and SNK was going strong through the 90s, and it made what would be considered, at least for me, the best Neo Geo game ever released, and that is Beastbuster Second Nightmare. If you ever played this game in arcades, leave me a comment down below and tell me what you think. But I love the final boss against that gigantic full moon. This game is just perfect for me. I love it, and I'll keep playing it every year as long as I'm around. But I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.